You notice I have a tie on today. So I've got
Very nice.
I've got an event.
Court or classroom?
Yeah.
One or the other.
Today, by the way, this is spring break week for Emory, so I don't have to teach this week. I'm very excited. I get Wednesday off. Everybody, welcome to our YouTube here for IMMPact Litigation. Welcome, Lily, Aaron, and Greg. I'm Chuck, and it's great to be with you today. We got all four corners. It's like if we can get 9 people, we can be Hollywood Squares. Get 9 of our folks on here. I don't know if it goes that high, but I'm curious if it does. So we've got some news, obviously, what's going on. I think, Aaron, let's start off with our Kang case. Do you have any word at all from the judge? What's the most recent update?
Banner.
The latest, as I saw while you put up the banner, is the latest is just that we're waiting on a decision on the motion to dismiss. So all the plaintiffs have their adjudications. This is now about whether it's going to be treated as a class and whether it's going to afford further relief to all the other people in the same situation where they can't get their work permits. And we'll see. We're waiting on the motion to dismiss. After that, assuming we just survive the motion to dismiss, then it goes to the motion for class certification. So just waiting. I think it could come anytime.
And we had hoped that they would consider the class certification argument first before considering the motion to dismiss, right? But unfortunately, that's not the way it went.
Yeah, and I really don't understand why the judge didn't want to do it that way. So we'll see.
Maybe he wants to clear it out. Well, if he clears it out, there's not a million other people waiting on their EADs. So we'll probably be back is what we'll probably end up doing. But all of our plaintiffs got approved. So, congrats to each of them. That was great. That's all we have the update on the EAD. There's really nothing else going on there. We're just literally waiting. But the judge, I suspect it will probably get a decision relatively quickly because of the class certification that's kind of hanging out there. Unlike some of our other stuff. In fact, while we're on the other stuff, Lily, let's talk about K-1 visas. All right. So Ponomarenko is easy, right? Ponomarenko, we have one plaintiff left. And literally, we're just waiting to get the visa stamp. Is that accurate?
I believe so, yeah.
So that was Judge Mehta, and that case is stayed. So basically, the judge is not going to rule for 30 days.
Stay means paused in this situation, basically. We're putting it on hold for a minute.
Yeah, so put it on hold. So that's kind of where we are with there. On the Manila case, we just updated the judge last week. With the status of the cases and how many are pending, etc. That was at the judge's request that he wanted to know what was going on. And there's still a lot of people that haven't been adjudicated. And that case has been pending 10 months or 9 months. No, 10 or 9 or 10. I think it was April or May last year, wasn't it, when we filed it? I think so. And the motions to dismiss have been pending for a very long time. And so I think what he was hoping was the same thing Judge Mehta was hoping for. Okay, I've hung out long enough. I haven't done anything. Make sure it goes away. And I think the judge is going to be shocked. So how could there possibly be this many people left that they haven't adjudicated? Because those judges, they all eat in the same lunchroom. They talk about the cases. Hey, I got one of these visa cases too. Yeah, mine's done. What? Mine's not. I have to rule on the case now. So we don't have any further update, but other than the judge just got that stuff last week. And we actually filed early, didn't we, Lily? It was due Friday.
We did. Thank you, Ramirez plaintiffs, for being super responsive to email. A bunch of y'all sent updates when I asked for them, and that helped us send that update before it was even due. So thanks.
Now, Lily, on the K-1 London, London was really moving along briskly. But it was National Visa Center that was dragging their boots. Is that right?
For some time it was. We haven't had a request from the judge in London for an update, so I haven't requested updates from our London plaintiffs. I've been getting a slow stream of both transfers from the consulate and interviews getting scheduled. So there's still a few of our London plaintiffs who I haven't heard from recently. You can send us an update at any time, but it seems like
I did file an update in January on the case with the court unsolicited.
We did, yep.
So I don't want to file another one right away, but let's see what happens. Maybe we'll get a decision in the Manila case that will be helpful on these other cases. And then last, of course, is the K-1 Rio. And my understanding, and I could be wrong, Lily, was the consulate had done everything, and the National Visa Center was just basically sitting on stuff.
Yeah, that's what we were seeing in Rio, was that folks who were already at the consulate were slowly but surely getting appointments, but a lot of cases were still stuck at NVC, similarly with a lot of our Manila plaintiffs. I haven't looked at the Rio data much since last time we did the update on it, but y'all
we've all been
continue to
doing
send
this
your
a long.
updates
We've
in.
been doing this a long time. I don't, I know the pandemic affected everything, but the National Visa Center seems to be just, as well as the KCC, but really it's in collapse. It's like they don't even care anymore to do stuff expeditiously. They, if they get to the, it's no big deal. It's like all of a sudden these are just brown paper folders and not human beings who want to get on with their lives. I think that to me is the most personally frustrating part of the system, is that they just don't seem to care. They just don't seem to care.
Yeah, I mean, Chuck, I just posted on Twitter like a day or two ago, because I'm updating the consular processing section of my book, and there was a quote on there that says, "NVC cannot predict when consular sections will resume routine services," and I just posted kind of an angry response to that, which is, it's like, why would you not be at routine levels at this point? I can understand this issue of catching up on everything, but you should be operating 100% normally at this point. All of us are operating normally in our businesses and our institutions at this point. Why is the NVC still not able to do that? That's a mystery to me. Why that?
Because they're special. They're special.
And they can blame the consulates for
what is going on
having
right now that they could not do routine processing on there. I mean, if it's a mask mandated at the consulates, okay, that still shouldn't affect the pace that they're able to do their jobs. There's nothing that explains to me why that would still be the case, and I have not seen any explanation for that.
And I understand that the various consulates, each of them have different, as the State Department loves to tell us, they're operating in different countries with different situations and different rules. But the KCC and the NVC are right here in the U.S.
There's no excuse for not being able to do their job 40 hours a week in the same way that they were doing it before the pandemic. That to me is something I would like to see Congress look into that.
Yeah, well, this is the kind of thing that needs to have hearings on something. Bring the head of the NVC in and say, you filed all these affidavits and these lawsuits. I have some questions about them. Kind of bring them back to what's, do your job kind of stuff. Do your jobs kind of stuff. Now, I do want to just talk briefly. Let's see if we've got anything else here about the DV cases. We've got DV 2021. The government and us are in now that Judge Maida has ordered the government to file for an expedited request. On Friday night, the government emailed us and said, here's our proposed expedite, bringing stuff into May. Briefs not due till the end of May. I don't think that's an expedite. So we have countered with that with an early, like the briefs would be due in a week. And they, of course, freaked out. So this is going to go to us going back to Judge Maida and saying they didn't really want an expedite because they would have been filing the briefs right away.
It was their choice to appeal.
Yeah.
So deal with it.
Now we have our cross appeal, but it's literally cross appeal. So, we can get our stuff drafted pretty quickly. Why can't the government when they have an unlimited supply of lawyers to get this stuff done, in my humble opinion? But there's basically the case is frozen at least till the end of March, more or less. And then we'll know more at that point. Same is true for Gomez, Acker, DB 2020, for the two families of Acker that we have left. It's kind of frozen in space as well. So if you ask questions today on that, we're just going to tell you it's frozen. There's really nothing going on there. Now, everybody also knows, of course, that the lottery abuse case, the judge ruled against us at the end, but he said a lot of really interesting things in his decision. And we're not going to appeal that case. There's no need to appeal that case at this point. If nothing changes and immigration doesn't update their regs for this following year, yeah, we'll be back. We'll be back. There's also, Greg, some language and an agreement with Durbin and Grassley about some wild. I mean, like, we win, we win the lawsuit kind of legal changes. You want to just talk about that briefly?
Well, so this is there's been this legislation floating around for probably a good 10 years, but it seems like it has some traction now, which essentially does what I think the Trump administration was trying to do this through illegal illegal rulemaking.
Yeah.
But basically what they do in this is they create a tier system. It used to be 9 tiers, and this bill has 7 tiers.
7 tiers,
It heavily favors U.S. graduates of starting at the PhD level, but going down, and disfavors, and I guess in STEM fields are also favored in there. But it's designed, I think, to really stick it to staffing companies.
Oh, absolutely.
Who are the who I think that. The problem is, and there's nothing wrong with the staffing company. I think the problem is that it's just they've kind of abused the H-1B system. Not all, but some have, where they have basically completely overwhelmed everybody else as far as the numbers go, so that the ability to get it selected in the H-1B lottery is really pretty low if you're just filing one-off application for a U.S. grad. So that's what that's what that legislation does. There had been I'm trying to chase down a rumor that it's going to be in the omnibus. I don't think it is, but that would be pretty. This bill that's coming up this week is going to have potentially several significant immigration provisions in there. So we're waiting to see what that includes, and it's been held pretty close to the vest, and I think it's changing day to day. But my understanding was that, what's today? Today is
the 8th.
Today's the 8th. Today was the day that they were going to try and finish this up. Their deadline is the 11th. I don't know whether they're going to make it by today or not, but there's stuff we'll talk about in a minute on EB5. There's potentially stuff on on some other categories as well. I know people are going to ask me about the Mang Amendment, which affects the rollover of green cards. I had been told by a staffer that would never that was never going to pass, but I haven't heard confirmation for sure that it's not in there. So we're waiting to see what it is. I'm also told that physicians, there will not be any of the physician stuff that I usually do advocating on in there, other than a straight extension of the Conrad 30 program.
And if the H-1B passes, they would be included in the first category.
Right. So I had done some advocacy behind the scenes because there was some drafting issues with the Durbin-Grassley bill where doctors would be in tier 7, which because they're not considered, their degree is not their residency and fellowship programs are not considered degrees in the United States. So therefore they don't get any credit for that. And it's not considered a STEM field either. Medicine.
I want my doctor to be a STEM field.
So I've worked with some staff people in providing language that would fix that issue for them, and hopefully if this happens, whether it's in this bill or elsewhere, that problem will be taken care of.
Terrific. Now the timing is important because government funding runs out on Friday or the 11th. I don't know, is the 11th Friday, Saturday?
Yeah.
So that's why they wanted to get something out of these, because the Senate is the one is writing a lot of this bill, but all spending bills have to originate in the House. So they send the language to the House, who then passes the bill, sends it back to the Senate, who then vote on it, make changes, send it to a reconciliation committee, and then pass it all by the 11th, which is why it really has to get sent over today.
Chuck, do you want to throw a banner for legislative updates? I know a lot of other folks might be interested in this.
I'm not sure I
conversation too.
I'll make.
Well, maybe we should switch subjects to talking about the EB5 stuff, because
let's do the EB5.
Part
Let's
of this
do that next. So let's add EB5 here, and because that is really the we're currently working on the hardest, and so. Let's just start out with the EB5 program. So we're working with Matt Galati, a good friend of ours, in putting together a group action. Now, I will tell you, the complaint is drafted. You know, it's drafted. We're adding plaintiffs to it, but it's drafted. But the entire action is premised on the idea that, and our understanding of how the law is written, that there's a section of law called Section 610. It came out of a bill that passed back in 1982 that essentially created the regional center program. And the way that law is written, this Section 610, it says the government shall reserve 300 numbers for this program. But we believe that acts as a floor, and the government has treated it as a floor, not as a maximum. And you know, but that 300 number, not the program itself, the 300 number expires every 3 years, every year, every 6 months, whatever Congress says. And it expired in July. But the program language did not. So our case was premised on the basis that you can't stop processing the cases. It's just the floor went away, or the reservation went away. And since you give 90% of the visas to regional centers anyway, what you're doing is illegal. And included within that was a mandamus action saying you're taking too long because you've illegally been interpreting the law. So, Greg, this new legislation is going to seriously, there it is right there, I've got it on my screen, is seriously going to affect this lawsuit. Because one of the very first items in this legislation is that it eliminates Section 610 all by itself. It just says 610 is hereby repealed as part of the program. In fact, you know, I wonder if I can share my screen here because I think I'm able to. Share screen. No, I can't share the screen there. It's not as easy as it is in Zoom. But basically, in Section 3 of the bill, it says Section 610 of this bill from 1993 is repealed. Boom. So that means that part of the lawsuit, which was the fulcrum on which the entire lawsuit is based, would go away.
Along with the EB5 program going forward.
The EB5
right?
regional. Now, there is
the
a Section 8 within the bill that creates a new, what you would call a regional center program. And it's different. But Greg, do you want to take it from there and, you know, where we are right now?
Yeah. So, I mean, basically, first of all, it's very fluid. Just because we've gotten a copy of bill language doesn't mean it's going to be in there. And we had a conference call this morning with Matt and with others on the team to talk about this. And there are still efforts to try and kill this language, and so that it wouldn't be included. So we're going to wait and see. We were going to file this case this week, but we're going to wait and see what Congress does. And it's not going to really change anything if we file this case on Monday. If it turns out that this doesn't make it in, then we're just going to go back to Plan A, which was to file the suit. But the bill itself is the second question is, okay, so if they do this, whether we file a mandamus case, that also will depend to some extent, and it's complicated on language interpretations in this bill and whether they are supposed to adjudicate or not. But the bottom line on it is that the case is not going to be filed until the omnibus is over, and that will probably be on Monday. And it depends on what is in that final language, and whether cases there's a section in there that says that the program would pause for 60 days. And we don't know whether that's all cases or just new cases pause for 60 days. So that's also why we're waiting on some interpretation coming from members of Congress and from some of the interest groups that are working on this. So, but we're determined to fight for folks, and we will, we just want to win. So we're going to make sure that before we file anything, that we do it exactly the right way.
One of the things that we've always said here at IMMPact Litigation is we don't file unless we believe we can win. We don't file garbage. We don't file to do bad stuff. We file to win.
And all the fees are in a trust account. So if we have to refund 100%, we will. If we can only proceed with some portion, we will. But that's so people don't need to worry about that.
So if you're a plaintiff that's signed up, just sit back and relax. And we've got your back on this, and we'll let you know what's going on.
But what might make the litigation harder is obviously potentially very good news for the plaintiffs. So
that's right
on there because the program lives on there. So that's all great.
And if you are, let me add, if you were have already signed up for the suit, you should have gotten an email from us about an hour ago or half an hour ago with most of the same information. If you didn't receive that email, make sure you add info@impactlitigation.com to your safe senders list. Occasionally, because it goes through constant contact, some people's emails get aggressive about sending it to spam.
Great. All right, so let's ask some questions. Let's have some questions today. I do, by the way, Lily, I do have a legislative update banner for our future talks on here. So I'd never gotten that right. Raquel, after anxious for EAD updates, we're anxious too. It's just really, Aaron, it's just so frustrating, isn't it? I had a talk with a U.S. attorney a couple weeks ago. He said, basically, we're under orders at this point to file a motion to dismiss on everything, to oppose extensions, to basically fight back on everything. And he was very frustrated by this. This is not what I've been here a long time. This is not the way I like to practice law. But this is the orders runner. This is the Biden administration, FYI. This is not the Trump people. It's the Biden administration doing this. This is their policy.
I was in an interview at USCIS yesterday, and my client does not have his EAD because the renewal has not come, and the automatic extension has ended, and he's going to lose out on a great job opportunity. And he was explaining this to the officer, and the officer who's doing the interview has nothing to do with the EAD, but it was interesting because she was so surprised. She has no idea that this is an issue. And she's like, well, why didn't you file your renewal? And then I explained, it's within stated processing times, but it's not going to come in time to work with the auto extension. And they have no idea. They have no idea the hardship that people are going through. So it is frustrating.
Jason, congratulations. That's awesome. Good to
So
see
awesome to see
Manila
progress for you
live.
finally.
Really good. I don't know what 11N stands for. Maybe Lily knows. I don't know what that means, Jason, but congratulations. St. Sen, if the expedited appeal is granted by circuit stop and they stay stopped, no. If the court grants the expedited appeal, then the judge, I'm assuming, will extend the stay. Do you guys think any otherwise on that? So no, do not. There's not going to be processing on April 18th. There's not, and I can guarantee you at this point that the state government stopped working on updating the system. I can guarantee you they stopped doing it. There's no way they continue to spend the money. Once they got that order from the court, they just stopped. I can guarantee you that they did. Let's see, Ms. Paxoy. His reserve fees being completely canceled after appeal. I think she's asking in the Go and Gomez case is, what if we lose? What are the chances? I mean, I think the law is solidly on our side. I mean, I do. I think it's not crystal clear. That's why you have lawsuits when, generally speaking, when it's not crystal clear. But I know that we're on the side of truth and justice. That I do know. So if we lose, it's because somebody's on the opposite side of that equation. That's just my opinion. Check out Britt Simons. Britt has been having our good friend Jesse Bless on as well. Jesse's been talking to him every Sunday. You're welcome to talk to Jesse. They have some litigation pending on DB 2022 as well. By the way, we still are taking plaintiffs on our DB 2022 case, are we not? Let me just see if I can find that. So if you are interested in still joining our DB 2022 case, we'll be adding plaintiffs for another week or so. And then we'll be moving forward towards the proactive litigation with the government.
We had posted that the deadline was yesterday, so we're going to gear up to file that. What is the actual deadline with the court? I don't have it off the top of my head, but if you want to join, do it today.
Yeah.
Do it today. That'll be good. All right, so let us see what we got here. Frostman, nice to see you go. How long do you think the appeal would take? Well, if the court grants an expedited appeal, so they say they will do it expedited, I mean, probably less than 6 months. I don't see how they do it in less than 6 months.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not. I mean, honestly, what's the emergency? The emergency is the Department of State doesn't want to follow the court order. That's the only emergency here. It's not like, Title 42 or something that's affecting public health. The only emergency here is State Department doesn't want to do the work. That's the only emergency. Build back. People keep asking about this, Greg. Build back better.
Manchin just said again this week that it's not happening. What could happen if they wanted was, potentially to break that thing up and do smaller bills. But I'm not hearing anything about the immigration provisions on there being pushed at this point separately. And I think the bottom line is they don't have 10 Republicans that would vote for that.
Just don't exist. This is a good question. We don't have any EB5 directs in our case. Something if we could get, we get a group of EB5 directs. I mean, there's not a lot of EB5 directs. I mean, every year that's less than, I think, 8% of the numbers of EB5s that are approved. But you're right, they're not processing those either. So what exactly is the Immigrant Investor Office doing? I don't know. What are they doing? I don't know.
Yeah, they don't have any. They can't use legislation as the excuse on that one.
No, they can't. And it's just incompetence. So how do you draw the line between legislation and incompetence? Not the office necessarily, but the management. I mean, how
by the way,
criteria?
On legislation, I mean, I guess for EB5, I mean, thankfully they're going to actually, they need to deal with that legislatively. But the illustration of how unable Congress is to act on this is the fact that the Afghan Adjustment Act can't find one Republican to sign on to this. This is like for our allies in Afghanistan that they were all banging the drum talking about how Biden should be letting, should be welcoming, especially the allies of the soldiers. They won't. The Afghan Adjustment Act, all it does is try and give some kind of, long-term status to those people in the U.S., and they cannot find one Republican to support that bill. So if they won't support something that's apple pie, like that, what are the chances that you're going to get 10 Republicans on anything else?
Completely bananas. DV 2022 updates. Aaron, do you want to talk about the timeline?
Sure. The updates are, like we said, we're about to file the amended complaint. That goes in, I believe, Monday. And then the next steps are we will get together with counsel for the government and see if they're willing to expedite the production of an an administrative record. And based on those conversations, that's where we make which is what's a pretty big strategic decision, which is whether we go for preliminary injunction or go straight to summary judgment. So there should be news in the coming weeks about those kinds of decisions.
And that is, of course, with Judge Mehta, who is completely familiar with the exact issues that we will be litigating. So, from Nairobi, DV 2020, kind of mentioned that. Thanks for tuning in, Ankit, from Nairobi. CB Man, let me see. I mean, regular processing a bare minimum. Yeah, they are. Again, I just don't understand it. If they were a real business, they would be out of business. Would. They just absolutely would. If H-1B and L-1 reform does happen by some law, is there a chance it could be challenged in court by someone like IT Serve? No, because it's legislation.
Right.
And as I teach my law school class, in the first class of every year, Congress has plenary power over immigration. Due process for immigrants is whatever Congress says it is. So, no, it will not be challenged. They might file something. They have zero chance of winning. Congress can do whatever it wants.
The only thing they would ever be able to argue is that somehow the agencies were not doing what Congress directed. That's it.
Yeah, and here's one thing, Greg. If that H-1B provision did pass, we're in the middle of the lottery, right? I mean, the lottery registration.
Mm-hmm.
I think they would have to start all over because the lottery registration is not giving them enough information to meet the criteria that is outlined in that legislation.
Yeah.
Not telling them where they went to school, etc. So I
have to go back and look and see what the effective date was of it, whether it was the effective the following fiscal year after passage. If that's the case, then it wouldn't,
it wouldn't, but
the last lottery that would be this way, and then after that it would have to be following the new rule.
Yeah, we'll see. I didn't see that part of the bill, if that's even in there. All right. Zora, we talked about DV 2021 earlier. April, K-1 Manila played, hoping that we win our losses because I know, April, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Is there any hope for USCIS doing their job? Here's what's interesting. Yesterday they come out with a new policy on SIJs. So special immigrant juveniles are kids whose parents abandoned them or lost them. And it's a great policy if you've been granted SIJ. Of course, if you're taking 2 years to adjudicate the SIJ, you get nothing during that time frame. You're still in deportation proceedings.
Well, but you just sort of illustrated the whole problem with USCIS when they do these, they make these announcements. They never go all the way. They always give you half a loaf. They always, I mean, like the H1, the EAD after the Shergill suit. It was like, why it seems like they are deliberately trying to not fix the problem. They're trying to fix half the problem on there, and this is a good example of that. That they're not bold. They will. It seems like they will do the do enough that they can get some good PR out of it and actually help some people, but they never go all the way to actually fix a problem.
No, and that got a lot of press. Oh, immigration is. You're probably talking no more than 8,000 or 10,000 people at this point. I mean, really, that's probably all you're looking at. Maybe 20,000 at the most. It has an impact in those individual lives, like all immigration cases do. But it's not like, oh my gosh, the world has changed. Yet, the immigration had no problem being bold in the Trump administration when they were canceling benefits left and right. So it's just really frustrating from my perspective. And they were even saying, some people, if you follow immigration Twitter like we do, my client's EAD got approved in 2 months. What? They have just approved my I-45 from a marriage-based case without an interview. What's going on? I mean, and yet you have, of course, we all know, of course, it's first in, first out.
My friend.
But, which is a lie, right? Which is a lie. But how are you not dealing with a million EAD cases that are there? I don't understand it. It's just mind-boggling to me. Relief Act, the Relief Act was reintroduced, as everybody knows from last week. Why do they introduce the bill? This is all politics. Immigration has been used extraordinarily effectively by both parties as the carrot and the stick. Oh, if you vote for me, I've got this for you. If you just could re-elect me and I'll do this. And they never follow through, because why would you get rid of the carrot and the stick if they work? I think the Dems are going to have a bloodbath in November if they don't pass something substantial on immigration. I just do. All right, last character. What will they tell the embassy if we get an interview while the case is still ongoing? Great, then you're done. The goal is they should be interviewing everybody, but what we know in many consulates, they're not doing any DV cases. None. So hopefully you do get picked. All right. So there we are. That's all we have for today. Thank you everybody for tuning in. It's great to have you with us, and we'll be back next Tuesday at noon with our update. Greg, you're going live in an hour or two on your Twitter channel.
Yeah, I'm going to be briefing people about Ukrainian and Russian options. That's what I'm going to talk about for an hour.
I do want to get one more question, because this fellow keeps emailing me every day with this question. If you are a GOAT plaintiff, can you go to the U.S. to adjust status? My answer is, I do not know. USCIS was not a litigant in the case. The judge refuses to clarify the answer, and Department of State says nothing. So I don't think you should do it.
I think the problem is, how would you, when they got to the point of being able to adjudicate, assuming they even took the thing, how would they decide whether you got one of the reserve visas, whether that belonged to you or not? That's the problem, right? Exactly
right. And worse, the case is stayed, so you can't come. There's no final judgment. Without a final judgment, there is no reserve visas. So you simply have to wait until there's a final judgment. So obviously, you're not going to do that.
Now, if you're DV 2022, that's a different story.
If you're DV 2022 and you have a visitor visa, you should seriously consider taking a brief 60-day vacation to Disneyland, and then talking to local counsel about your immigration options under the lottery. I'm just
Don't think about it for 60 days, then think about it.
Yeah, then think about it. It's a friendly piece of advice. All right, everybody. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Well.